Hey, welcome to the process. My name is Dr. John Bush. This is part 3 of my positional predictions using preseason ADP, looking as a reference class forecast from 2015 to 22, hopefully giving us insight into this year's draft. Please watch 1 and 2, especially 2. Two's kick butt. We are continuing with wide receivers. Just to let you know, be aware that this is my process and I do what I need to do. You're tagging along. Hopefully, I help you out. I hope you're enjoying it. Just to let you know, I think finishing up, I think I got maybe 3 more lessons. I got 57 more slides to hit in this series. So that's probably 6 lessons total, maybe 3, 4 more. Okay. Then I'll probably hit some more best ball patterns, see what's happening. And then I am moving to work on my fantasy points over median metric that I worked on last year, and we'll try to update that and have some views using that as a metric. So that's what's coming. Uh, so, okay. Okay. So just to remind folks, abbreviations: preseason, end of season, fantasy points per game. I take the predictions preseason of the what the public views, and then follow that up with end of the season. What did they do? So I've been tracking all positions, like in a crew, like all wide receivers on a team, running backs, etc. Or I've been pulling out predicted preseason, wide receiver 1, 2. I'll be doing RB 1, 2, tight end, these kind of things coming as well. Methods, 2015 to 22, have a spreadsheet, use pivot tables, box and whisker plots. If there's any difference, then I use the ANOVA. Then to tease out the treatment group differences, use the Tukey HSD test. I do chi-square one time in this whole series. And then I try to apply it to kind of what's happening in current ADPs, at least using FFPC as their ADP. So give us a look in, kind of an application of what's going on. Okay. So part 2 left off with pretty much finding that the public's view of wide receivers had some things to tell us. If you look historically at, and this is positional preseason for wide receivers, 1 to 45th wide receiver. This is the average fantasy points per game over the 8 years. Okay. And then this is the median every 6 places here. And then these colors show you the distribution of what the public was predicting for 2023 using the 8 years previous. So this is what wide receiver ones from good teams, medium teams, and bad teams, or low ranked. So you can see right away, look at the wide range here in the WR1s coming from Again, predicted WR1s, not end of the season, because I don't know what 2023 end of the season is. So this shows you the overlaps, and I use this kind of get a ruler, ADP base ruler, to see what 2023 wide receivers, where they're going right now, and is there any kind of bargain that might be showing itself. And I did a lot of that in lesson 2. Okay, so looking at this predictions, I turned around and says, well, if we use this data, what would the simulation look like? And this would be the simulation data of that. And you can see kind of some overlap from mid to good. And remember, the ANOVA found that the Tukey found that these populations were not statistically significantly different, even though I'm just saying it looks different, but we can't call it that. This is the group that are predicted to be statistically different. And I marked those teams in part 2 last time. So now let's go to wide receiver 2's predicted in the preseason versus their end of the season in 3 pots. The highest, the lowest, and mid teams overall cruise. And what did the WR2 say? In other words, is the public's insight, which we found did give us some valuable statistically significant information about WR1s, anything happening in WR2s? Or does it get really slippery and not really of significance here? And this is the predictions or the actual data. And this is the poor teams, mid, and top teams. And probably right away, you can see the great variation, the floor to ceiling here. And look at the best teams. So this is really interesting that the public, when they've graded a top team, they've definitely thought about the WR2s, at least for the better teams, the better third of the league here, top 10, something like that. So they're saying they're about 2.5 points better per week than the WR2s from the other teams, which is, hey, we'll take that. If you look at Dennis's weekly values, 2.5 points is very close to being a tier break. So even though we're calling these W2s, this would say that maybe these W2s are closer to W3s, even though the public's saying they're W2s. So I'm not sure, is it these could be slipping to WR1s? Is that the take home? Or these are the dangerous wide receiver? Interesting. Could be a mix of both. Let's look at the ANOVA. Is this real? Bottom, mid, and top. Here's the median, 9.9 fantasy points, 10 point, basically 2, 12.6. Looks suspicious. Is there a difference? Yes. The F stat is 10.2. It is significant. So I can probably guess the significance, difference of the groups, but the ANOVA just says there's a difference in one of the treatment groups. We have to use Tukey's test. It's like turkey, doesn't it? But it's Tukey's test. And here it is, W2s. And what do we see? The bottom and the mid, no difference. We should ignore for W2s. The bottom versus the top, 22% difference. Mid versus top, 20%. So you are gaining with your W2s based on preseason versus what happens at the end, we're getting a 20% uptick in value with those WR2s. So that is statistically significant, folks. This is real McCoy here. It's not some flim flam you see on the Twitter world, or not some ho-ho's opinion from his mom's basement. Okay, this is real data. So let's then proceed to try to help us out for the draft. This is the end of June. These are the bottom teams here, and they kind of break into two categories here. The ones that are not colored in any kind might be priced about right. Probably not looking for any bargains there. The ones that could be intriguing, and the ones that I'm really interested in, look at the 93rd to 98. Phillips and Hollins, 76, so 25th to 72nd wide receiver, and you're getting 93rd and 98. So these might have some very interesting, you know, these are team predicted wide receiver twos that might have a better value where you can get them. So they could be a bargain there. These could be a bargain. Could be. They're close. A little bit near 70 seconds. So that's why I highlighted them. These slap your face here. These guys, Phillips and Hollins, these could be. So right now I'm using this data to thinking, I can get these perceived team W2s, even though they're not as good as the top teams, as we saw Tukey's testing. You still have some baked in price here, especially these two. So there could be some bargains. So these are on my radar, especially these two. I mean, you could get those, WR6 type. So very intriguing. Maybe if you can get 7, 8 points a week, for a WR. It's not something I'm searching for, but in best ball, okay, they may pop. What about the mid-level teams? 24th to 71st, really not a big difference in the extreme. I will note Mike Williams at 29 seems a little bit rich. Caution. And these at the bottom seem a little bit possible that there might be something. But right now, nothing extremely jumps out. I wouldn't take any of these at value. That's my takeaway here. I know on Twitter you used to saying this is a sleeper. That, folks, not every player can be a sleeper. Come on. And a sleeper, to me, my definition, we can talk about. My definition is you're getting at least 2 rounds better. So if you draft them as a 4 and you get 2 value, or you draft them as a 5 and you get 3 value or better, to me, that's a sleeper. I know some people think that I'm going to draft a 5 and get a 1. No, you're not going to do that. Come on. That happens once in a blue moon. You're not that good. Okay? So, people have all sorts, they want 20 hot sleepers. Damn, 20? And what are you basing this on? Hopes, dreams, wishes? I don't think so. I got data here, folks. You can argue. Maybe you interpret it different. Mr. Tukey, Mr. Nova says there's some reality here. Finally, let's move to the top teams. So I got some worry. I'm worried about Waddle, Smith, and Higgins. Those seem to be a tad pricey for, a 50% window here. I'm not saying, but it looks to me like there's no bargains at their price. I'm not saying you shouldn't draft them. I'm just saying, I don't see any bargains. Yes, if they slip, then you might have some. And the only one that jumps out to me is close is Brandon Cooks. He's close to that bottom. The rest of them seem to be, and take them at price. I'm saying that's what their price is. Nothing surprising. I I don't ever try to take a player at price if I can help it, especially this, deep 30, 20, 30, 40s. Okay. So that's the take home there. Maybe not as dramatic, but I've given you some warnings. I've given you some potentials here. This is how you take your data and squirrel it around. I know, like a bush squirrel. Uh, and you use that to as a lens to focus on what's happening now. And remember, the caveat to all this is into June. Who knows what's going to happen by the end of August? So the data you saw was based on ADPs at the end of August. So see, there's still a little bit of sloshing going on. But if you're drafting now, giving you something to at least shoot for. Okay. So anyway, thanks for part 2 here. Only 16 minutes. Great. And less time to hear me run my mouth. Good stuff here, folks. Okay, come back for part 4. We're having fun.